I'd like to welcome our first guest on the program, Sean McManamy, who is Senior Vice President of Strategy with HealthFitness, a Trustmark company and one of the leaders in health management. Sean, good morning. Thanks for joining the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You bet. For our audience's sake, Sean, give them a little background around HealthFitness, those who might not know you.
Sure. HealthFitness is a subsidiary of Trustmark companies, and we have been in the business for about 40 years now of helping employers improve, promote their cultures of health within their employees and working with their employees to create lasting healthy behavior changes, whether that's through management of on-site fitness centers, to management, design, and strategy around corporate wellness programs, health coaching, on-site, telephonic, biometric screenings, technology. So we kind of bring it all together and work with employers all over the country to help, as I said, promote long-lasting, healthy behavior change within their employees.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have you on the program again. Sean, you've done some research recently around a very important topic, and that's how do we improve, where are we as far as participation and engagement with employees in wellness programs, and, what are some of these elusive drivers to improving participation? I mean, talk a little bit about, first of all, what was the impetus to conduct this research, and then let's talk about some of the findings.
Sure. We conducted this research, if you're paying attention in the industry, and obviously you guys are and others are, the buzzword for the last several years has been engagement. And what are we going to do to increase engagement? How do you increase engagement? How do you even define engagement, frankly? But what we really thought was lacking was somebody to really go out and talk to employees, talk to the people to whom we are offering these programs, and ask them, get right from the horse's mouth, why are you participating or why aren't you participating? And let's try to understand, let's take what we can learn from the people who are participating and engaging. How do we take that and apply it to those who aren't? And then with those who aren't, let's see if we can really ask them and dig deep into what are the barriers that are preventing you. I think, too often we tend to default to, well, we need to pay them more, right? We need to give them larger incentives, and there's sort of been an incentive proliferation arms race over the last few years. Well, if we just keep giving them bigger and bigger incentives, then hopefully they'll continue to participate. And sure, incentives are important, but we said there's got to be more to it than that, and so we thought let's go ask these folks directly.
So Sean, talk about some of the key findings that came out of the survey.
Sure. There was a lot of interesting stuff that came out of this. At the same time, we also did some employer research, and there's as you might imagine, there's some interesting disconnects between what employers are thinking and what employees are thinking. And so we're certainly sharing this with our clients and helping them to understand what some of those gaps might be. But for example, I think one of the biggest findings that came out of the research for us is the importance of culture. And that's really coming from, again, both the people who we talked to who were participants and who weren't participants. And the people who were not participating, even if they had programs available to them, in a lot of cases they're not participating because the culture of their employer doesn't really isn't conducive to their participation. So they might be offering programs, they might be offering incentives for programs, but then the company culture is sort of seems to be opposed to that. They're not given time during the workday to participate in the programs that their employers are offering. They're not seeing from their managers a support for participating. One of the things that we've talked about for years in this industry is the importance of visible senior management support, senior leadership support for on-site, worksite wellness programs. But what we found from our research was that people are saying, well, yeah, that's great, but I don't really identify with my CEO as much. I identify with the guy sitting next to me or my line manager. And if my line manager is saying, no, I'm not going to give you time to get up and take a walk around, even though theoretically on paper the employer is promoting, getting up and moving, they're seeing that disconnect. They can smell it when the employer is not really being genuine about the offering that they're putting out there.
Yeah. So what are some of the ways that an employer can go about better communicating the value of a wellness program?
Sure. There's lots of different things, and one of the key findings that we found in the research was a big barrier for people is lack of information. In fact, I think about 70% of the people who aren't participating say the biggest barrier to their participating is lack of information. They just don't know. And in fact, that's one of the places
Sean,
we saw. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to ask you a question here. Is it truly the lack of information, or they just don't know where to go get it or where to find it?
Well, it could be. Yeah, it's a great question because it could be all those things. I think what we found again in talking with employers was, I think employers think they're doing a pretty good job of communicating, and the employees aren't feeling it. So is it that the communication isn't there? Is it that we're not communicating with employees? We're not meeting them where they are and talking to them in a way that they're going to listen. One of the things we did focus groups as sort of an early component of this research, and I was fortunate enough to sit in on some of those, and just hearing from people who were saying, I'm busy, right? People have lives, and people are, they're going to work, they're working hard, they're commuting, they've got a short period of time when they get home at night to have a quick bite to eat, help their kids with their homework, go to bed and do it all over again. They're not paying attention as much as employers and suppliers like us maybe think they are, right? So maybe we think we're over-communicating. We need to communicate more because people just aren't, they're not thinking about this stuff all day long like a lot of us are. And I think that was a key finding. So again, if it's communicating more or making sure that you are understanding what are the ways that your employees want and need to be communicated with, putting a bunch of posters on the wall isn't necessarily going to do it.
Because we're all different too, right? It's called personalization too, right? As you've alluded to. It's like
absolutely
the demographics of an employee population, and everyone's different. Everyone wants information differently, right?
Yeah, everyone wants information, and your point about personalization is a good one. That's another key finding that we got out of this research is employees are saying, in terms of why they're participating or why they're not, is they want a program that is personalized and tailored to them and to their interests, to their time, to their needs. So it's not just the communication that needs to be personalized to the individual; it's the program itself. And what are we doing? We've got a lot of data on people, and yet, too often we're pushing kind of cookie cutter programs out there. So that's one of the big things that we at HealthFitness are taking away from this is we really need to do a better job of using the data that we have on people to create a program for them that is going to be unique and that is going to make them want to engage, and that it's not just the same thing. That what's good for one employee is not necessarily good for the employee that's sitting next to him.
Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. So you focused on both program participants. So those are the ones that are involved, and then non-participants. So how is it different for each of these groups?
Well, again, it's interesting. One of the things that sort of fell out of the research, we didn't really go into it necessarily looking for segments to be created, but it almost kind of worked out that way, where there's sort of this spectrum of participation, and you've got on the one end of people who are participating, you've got people who are really committed, and they're doing this because they believe in the importance of being healthy, of having of well-being, and yes, of course, we need to keep finding ways to keep those people really engaged and to continue to find good incentives for them. But they're sort of they're committed. And all the way at the other end of the spectrum, you've got people who are non-participants who we're calling the reluctants. They're just unwilling. Maybe it's that they're just overwhelmed by everything else they have going on in their life right now, and it's just, don't bother me. But then there's this whole spectrum in the middle. There are people who aren't participating, who are very much on the fence, and really, we think that it wouldn't take much, just a little more education, maybe making the programs a little more convenient for them to push them over the edge from sitting on the fence and not participating to sitting and to dipping their toe in the water and getting started in some of these programs. So, we really found that the lift is going to be harder for some folks at that far end of the spectrum, and maybe we shouldn't be focusing, and employers shouldn't be focusing resources on that. There's some people who just aren't going to do it. Let's accept that, and let's focus on the people who will if we just give them a little bit of a push.
Yeah, Sean, talk a little bit about one of the other elements is, in improving participation, I guess we all talk about is the importance of culture and building a culture of health. Talk a little bit about the importance of that in driving participation, and then what employers can really do to foster this culture of health.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's as I said, I think we don't give, or we haven't given employees enough credit in the past probably for being aware of whether their employer is offering programs just to check a box, or if they're doing it because they really truly believe in and value their employees' health. And I think one of the things that we found was that in that group that is participating, they believe that their employer is doing this for the right reasons. They see that their employer is creating an environment at the workplace that is reflective of the programs that they're trying to put in place. And so, again, yes, it's about senior leadership involvement, sure, but it's about making sure that management at all levels is supportive, that that managers are giving their employees time to get up and take a walk around for a few minutes once an hour. Give them an opportunity. If you have an on-site fitness center, give them an opportunity to go down and do a quick group class during the day. It's hard because you think you're thinking about productivity, and well, geez, if I'm taking them off the phones for 20 or 30 minutes in the middle of the afternoon, that's going to have an impact on productivity. But I think the research has shown that if your employee, they're healthier, they're happier, they've got better well-being, they're going to be more productive in the time that they're on the phone. So I would say it's really about making it easy for employees to do the right thing. Don't let work be an excuse for, I can't participate, I can't make healthy choices because I'm chained to my desk, I'm chained to the phone, I'm chained to the line all day. Another thing is about building a strong social community. One of the things that we found from the research is the people who are not participating would participate if they were more aware of what people like them and coworkers like them who are similarly situated. They're looking. There's such a thing as peer pressure, and so how do you kind of create that and leverage it to get the people who aren't on the boat to get them on the boat?
Is that where some social media communications can help too?
Sure. I mean, social media is a way of doing that. And it's certainly one where I think the industry has been focused a lot on that over the last few years on creating online social tools, and those are important. But it's more than that. It's fostering an environment at the workplace where people can actually physically see their coworkers getting up, going into the fitness center, getting up, taking a walk. That's the kind of social community that is visible to people, and that they can say, yeah, it's nice that my employer is offering me a website, but I can actually see that within my coworkers that my employer is supporting us making healthy choices while we're at work. And that's probably just as important as making social media online tools available to them.
That's very good. Anything else as we kind of wind this up over the next few minutes and keep talking about anything else you want to highlight with our audience about this research specifically?
I think again, I think some of the disconnects that we saw between what employers and employees are thinking. We asked employers about what are the drivers for them, about how they're choosing a provider to work with for their corporate wellness and corporate fitness programs. And what employers are looking for and what employees are looking for are not necessarily aligned. Again, we heard that employees are looking for programs that are very personalized to them, very tailored to them. And when we asked employers what are they looking for, that didn't come up. There's certainly other very important drivers that came up for employers. They want to make sure that they're working with a vendor who is working with them to support their business goals, who is customizing a program at the employer level. But we didn't hear the employers saying, and it's important to me that you're personalizing the program for my employees, and yet that's what the employees are asking for. So I think one of the things that came out for us is that we really need to do a better job of kind of connecting our clients, the employers, with their employees who are our participants, and make sure that everybody is aligned, or at least understand where there might be different drivers and implement strategies to help kind of bridge that gap.
No, that's good. Sean, as we kind of close up here too, what's kind of your in 30 seconds to 60 minutes, or 60 seconds? What's your kind of view on where we are as an industry? We all moving towards total well-being, et cetera. Where do you see us as an industry?
I think it's the industry, as you said, moving towards a much more holistic view of well-being that is more than just the physical, that gets into the financial and the emotional, and certainly we're seeing that, and we're obviously working and developing programs to address all that. I think it's also, we're seeing an inflection point between the combination of technology and real kind of people-based services, where there's been a big focus on technology for the last few years, and technology is crucially important, but we're starting to see as an industry, employers are starting to realize that that's not enough, that certainly you need to give employees the technology tools, but if there's not human beings behind that to help back it up, you're not going to achieve your goals. So I think we're starting to see that. We're starting to see not a shift in the other direction, but we're starting to see that employers are realizing that technology alone isn't going to do it. You have to have a good balance of technology and people working with people to create behavior change. So it's an exciting time to be in this industry, and we're hoping that this research that we've done can not just help us to be better, to create better programs, to create more engaging programs for our participants, but that can help the entire industry, because that's important.
Yeah, very, very good discussion today, Sean. Tell our audience how they can find you.
Absolutely. You can go on to www.healthfitness.com, and you'll get to see, not just learn about our programs and our approach to things, but we have a blog out there where lots of our leaders are opining on important issues that affect our industry, and we'd love to have you come out and check it out.
Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking on your schedule. Great discussion, excellent talking points. You have a great weekend.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sean.